I am turning this cargo van into a tiny home. But there's a slight problem. I only have 4 months to do it, and I have no idea how I'm going to fit everything inside. Last episode, we tackled the outside of the van, but this week we're starting work on the inside, including trying to lock down a floor plan. By the end of this video, I should have a functional tiny home layout, or a new reason to question my life choices. Oh, I cut out the wrong side. No pressure, right? Let's get started. Okay, so before we can get to fun stuff, we have to do some sound deadening on these walls. So right now when I drive, this thing is super loud. And in order to cut down on some of that noise that is happening from these vibrating, we are going to be adding some sound deadening panels. Now these panels, they have an adhesive back, and we're going to be sticking them to basically all of the thinner pieces of metal along the entirety of the van. That includes roof, walls, and flooring. So I'm allotting myself about 4 hours to get this done today, and I'm hoping that we can actually get it done today because I would like to start building out the floor tomorrow, so let's do it. I wasn't kidding about getting started on this project ASAP. I'm a little stressy that I only have about 4 months to get this build done at this point, and so we're gonna be jumping on into these projects on this channel, so buckle up. Also, car pun not intended. Test, 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 test. You can already hear the difference in the echo from this side of the van to this side of the van. I'm so excited to drive this thing once all this kill mat's up. I'm not gonna worry about the door until I insulate because I'm gonna have to take all of that off. Same with the back doors. It just doesn't make sense to do right now because I have nowhere to put the panels, so we're gonna wait. So just like everything on the exterior of the van, everything on the interior van is also just like a first time me learning how to do things. I've never applied sound deadening mats to anything, and also, I don't know if you can tell, but this is not the right tool to do this with. I just had this like tiny little stamping rolly tool thing that I used that was in like a craft bin in my office, but it worked. I don't know, sometimes you just gotta get crafty. Also, pun not intended. I don't know how you all put up with me sometimes. She fancy. This better help with the noise of the wheels. That's all I gotta say. So I kind of took this van on its maiden voyage after all of that exterior work to the dealership to get new wheels and tires put on it. And in that process, I learned that it was not only super loud and echoey inside, but also that my air conditioner was rattling, which was super concerning. I was afraid it was gonna like fall off the van and hit the car behind me, to be quite honest. So in addition to adding some sound deadening, I actually ordered a custom bracket for the back of the van to hold the AC in place. I feel so much better about this decision. Well, that was perfect timing because the sun is going down. As you can see, all of the sound deadening is on. I just like did a little bit on the floor. There's a big debate on what is supposed to go on the floor and what's not for sound deadening. So I kind of just like cut some strips in between, and I'm saving the rest for whatever I have to fill in the side door and the back door. That being said though, we are ready for flooring, and as you can see, I've already started bringing in some pieces of wood to figure out like how thick I want the floor to be, how thick I want the insulation to be. I'm not gonna lie, I really don't want to go overkill on this floor because I want to keep max ceiling height in this van. So I have some brainstorming to do, but I'm so excited, friends. I'll see you then. Wait, side note, I'm back. I just listened to that clip and it's like not echoey at all. So clearly sound deadening works. I'm really excited. Okay, now I'll see you tomorrow. Bye. We're back. Floor frame, done. So exciting. Today's the day that I'm going to actually like permanently attach the framing to the van. It's looking a little chaotic in here, but like, I don't know, we live life on the edge, right? I also don't know if this is gonna work. I've never done this before, but like, what's life without a little hard lesson learning? It's gonna be fine. It's gonna be fine. Let's do it. Come on. I genuinely do not understand how this floor is already dirty when I've cleaned it like 45 times. This is what life in a van is gonna be like, huh? I'd rather be safe than sorry though, so let's just clean as we go. If there's one thing I'm learning with this van build, it's that there are a lot of opinions on the internet about the way that you should or shouldn't be doing things in the van, and I can't necessarily tell which ones are right or wrong, so I'm just gonna go with my gut, especially on the floor. And look, it's not like I haven't done my research. I researched this build for an entire year, but there are like 6 different ways to do so many of these things, and I'm just gonna do what works for me. And obviously hope it doesn't fall apart. This is how I'm gonna get in shape for the summer. No more winter hibernating here. This is kind of when I'm wishing I already cut the floor, so I could just use the floor template. You live and learn, right? So I'm gonna decide to keep this. So I just cut the 2 that were too long. I'm gonna put them back in and we're gonna glue them down. I just feel like I really want to keep this because this is our entrance to our tiny home. And I'm nervous that it's just gonna get a lot of wear and tear, and this is just gonna hold up better than whatever floor I put down. So it's all good. So we'll keep that, and that is actually a nice snug fit. Let's glue down a freaking floor. You know, some days I get super hard on myself for like the way my yard looks and how messy my shop is and how cluttered my shed has become. And today is not one of those days because all of that clutter and all of that messiness came through for me. So I'm gonna leave this all alone to dry overnight, come back tomorrow. My hope is that it actually sticks and it's cool and it's dry so that I can go to Home Depot and pick up plywood for the subfloor. So we will circle back in the morning, friends. I got some cleaning up to do on my own. See you then. Bye. Let's clean her up. One thing I want to point out is that this part of the process has been so enjoyable for me because it's the stuff I'm comfortable with. Working with wood, building structures, doing things I would do in an actual home. And speaking of things I would do in an actual home, you definitely need the right tools for the job, which is why this is actually a really great moment to take a minute to talk about the sponsor of today's video, Fantic. So this little gadget right here is a total game changer. It is the Fantic Fold S1 Apex electric screwdriver, and it is seriously awesome for stuff around the van and the house. It folds into a bunch of different angles, so whether you're fixing something under a seat in a van or tightening something like furniture in a house, it just makes things way easier. So this electric screwdriver is seriously easy to use. You just pop in your bit, choose whatever angle you need and whatever speed, and it pretty much does the rest of the work for you. It also has a light that turns on when you start, a screen that shows you your settings, and feels really solid, like it's all metal, not plastic. Also, I love that it comes with a bunch of bits and a USB-C charging case, so basically all of the things you need to get the job done are built right into the case. And right now, Fantic's doing an Easter sale, so if you want to grab one, hit that link below in the video description, select the Amazon coupon, and don't forget to use my code. And now that we have the right tools for the job, let's get back to this project. Floor frame is down, it feels secure, it feels nice. I do have to put insulation in between all of these bays, but one thing that I should have probably done before gluing these down that I'm gonna have to do before that is I have to make some sort of like wiring harness or channel in the floor that's gonna eventually go from the power source to the van battery. The reason I want to run this under the floor is because that is the path of least resistance, to be quite honest, and that's going to require me to cut away a couple of pieces, which is like why I probably should have thought about this sooner, but it is what it is. We're here now. Let me go grab the cable that I need and we will get started on doing that. Okay, a couple things happening here. I got my channel going. I think this should be the path of least resistance for this, where it's gonna kind of travel along the perimeter of the van. That way too, if I ever need to like actually access this line for whatever reason, I can pull off that trim, I can tuck it in there, I can get it from the front option. So that's the first thing happening. Second thing that's happening right now is I just was curious to see how the insulation would fit in, and so I just kind of cut a little piece here. Spoiler alert, it looks awesome. I'm going to cut a couple pieces of wood away to channel this guy all the way to the battery. And then once that's done, we can start laying in the insulation, which we now know is gonna fit. So excited. So while I fill this moment with footage of me installing insulation, we need to talk about something important here. Honestly, I'm really concerned that this van doesn't have a name. Like, I really want to give this van a name, and preferably I'd love for it to be something punny. So if anybody has any ideas, please leave a comment in the comment section below and give me ideas for names for this van so we can properly refer to this project by his or her name in every video. Thank you very much. Anyway, back to the project. So this part of the process was very therapeutic for me. I don't know why installing insulation in the floor of my van was therapeutic. Maybe just because it just was something that felt easy and things just fell into place the right way. But I will tell you, spoiler alert, the next video probably won't be as therapeutic. Because here's the deal, after the flooring is done and we actually figure out the layout of this van by the end of this video, that means that it's time to start wiring up the van and getting some electrical in it, and that freaks me the F out. And like I mentioned, I did a ton of research on this build, but there's so many different ways to do the electrical component of this build out as well, and I chose a system that should be fairly easy, but let me tell you, learning about electrical in preparation for what's about to come feels like learning a foreign language. But let's not get ahead of ourselves because clearly we have a lot of work to do before then. And yeah, this is pretty straightforward. Essentially just put some foam board insulation in between all of the floor frames and sealed everything up with foil tape. And once that was done, it was time to move on to actually installing the subfloor. Okay. Definitely not bad for a day of work. She ain't perfect, she ain't pretty, but she definitely will work. Really excited about this. I'm actually going to, in the morning, go to Home Depot and grab plywood for the floors. And then once the plywood is down, we're gonna do insulation. From there, we can pretty much figure out if I can actually fit every single thing I want to inside this van. I'm also debating whether or not I should do the flooring, like the actual flooring now, or wait. I think I'm gonna end up doing it now and then building on top of it. Successful day. I'm so excited to put like an actual floor in here. We're getting there, friends. Ugh. And also too, just like the fact that there's a wire ready to be wired. I'm so excited about this. I'm still very nervous about the timeline, but one day at a time, friends. So see you tomorrow, bye. Okay, wait, this is so quiet now. No rattling, no humming. I don't feel like I'm literally driving a soup can around on wheels. Sound deadening for the win. We made it to my favorite store. Let's go get some plywood for the floors. Good, secured. I was gonna film my shopping trip, but it was so busy in there and I get like camera shy with a lot of people around, so we got the plywood. Let's go home and cut a floor. Yay! I've had a couple moments in this build where present Sam or future Sam thanks past Sam for pre-planning. Remember this stinky mat that I pulled out of the van in our first video? Well, I kept it and I'm so glad I did because I was able to use it as a template for the subfloor and that saved me probably hours of work. Also, I cannot describe how happy I was to use a jigsaw to cut through wood at this point and not through a metal van. It really is just the little things in life that make me so happy. Side note, that footage of me laying down on the mat and contemplating my life choices was because I realized while laying down on that mat that this is literally how big the van is, and I had this like oh crap moment of I genuinely don't know if everything I want to put in this van is going to fit. Now, I know I haven't really spoken a lot of technical terms about what I'm doing in this build. I think part of that is because I've had a couple of moments already where I'm feeling like a little weird about sharing specs because I'm learning as I go and taking you along on this ride with me. But in case anybody's interested, my goal was to keep this floor as like tight or thin as possible. So I used 1x2 frames for the floor frame. obviously stacked in between each one of those with foam board insulation, and now I'm using 1/2-inch plywood that's going to float on top of that. Now the 1x2s plus the 1/2-inch plywood will still give me enough space to be able to screw things like cabinets and framing into the floor frame, but it's not really thick enough or intrusive enough to be a problem for the overall ceiling height, which ultimately is the priority here. Oh my god, I'm so excited. Also, I'm not super worried about this being a tight fit because not only is flooring going on top of this, but with all of the fixtures that I'm building, you're literally never gonna see any of these gaps. But I did want things like entryways to look very neat. Oh. Yes. So, I don't need this. I could actually square this up. Over here. Man, am I so happy I kept that disgusting, wet, smelly rubber mat from this van because it really did make my life so much easier at this point in the project. It's got some screws in this floor. It's kind of incredible what just putting a subfloor down has done to the entire vibe of this van. It doesn't feel like so much like a cargo van anymore. Now that the subfloor is down, that means I can put insulation in the walls. I want to do that before putting the good floor down because I don't want to get spray adhesive all over the good floor. So I am going to hopefully be able to do insulation tomorrow, and then once that's done, we'll get the good floor down, and then we can figure out what the layout is going to look like because I'm going to tape everything out. So we're getting there. We're getting there. So excited. See you tomorrow. Good morning. It is early. Today's insulation day. I am definitely excited to insulate this thing and see the difference in the temperature, especially when I turn on like the heater and stuff in here. I have lots of thoughts about insulation, but I'll share those thoughts while I'm actually installing it, so I don't have to just sit here and ramble about it. Let's do insulation so that we can hopefully do flooring tomorrow. I'm so excited to figure out if the layout I'm thinking about now is gonna work, and that'll be tomorrow's journey, so let's do it. So my thoughts on insulation are pretty much the same thoughts I've been having this entire build. There are so many differing opinions on what to use in a van build for insulation, and I could go down the laundry list of things that I have found for this build, but ultimately I ended up going with this product called Finsulate. My buddies over at Unaka Gear Co sent this to me. I don't think they sell it on their website anymore, so I will link it below in case anybody needs it for their own van build. But ultimately, it's basically like a 3-in-1 system. It's insulation, it's a sound barrier, and it's also going to help with moisture. This is definitely one of those options that I would splurge on, to be quite honest, because I want to make sure that the van is comfortable to live in. It's going to be a tiny home on wheels. Also, this is one of those things I thought was going to take me like literally a couple of hours to do because all I had to do was just like add some spray adhesive and attach these panels, and boy was I mistaken. Which seems to be the theme for this van, to be honest. Definitely longer than I thought it would take. I literally thought I'd be done with this project by noon. It is now 4 p.m. I mean, it's as done as it can be. I am not going to be insulating these windows. Hear me out. I have an idea for them, and in order for that idea to work, I can't add insulation to them. So I'm hoping that my idea works. But what I am going to be doing is they came with trim rings, and once those trim rings are installed, I'm going to at least insulate behind the trim rings to give it something. Other than that, I pretty much got everything covered. The only things that are exposed are any spot where I'll be putting a piece of wood for the framing, and then what I'll do is I have enough left over that once the framing's done, I can go back in and pack any additional spots with some insulation. Successful day. I really would like to get out here tomorrow and do flooring, so Hopefully the weather holds out. If not, maybe I'll just back the van all the way up to the garage so I can go back and forth and make cuts. But we are definitely getting somewhere, friends. I'm so excited about this. See you tomorrow. Floor day. So I'm so excited about this. I feel like this should go pretty quickly. I have put down a floor like this in countless amount of houses. It's gonna be a little tricky cutting around things, but we'll figure that out. I already have 2 boxes of floor out. I always like to have multiple boxes out at once so I can pull from each pile and mix them all up. I'm gonna start the first row up to there. Luckily the wheel wells don't have to be precise. In fact, a lot of this doesn't have to be completely precise because I'm building all along the walls, but I do want it to be close because I'm going to try to fully waterproof these floors. I'm also going to start on this side because this is where the water tank and plumbing is going to go. This is where the electrical is going to go. And since I might at some point need access to the wire that we put under the floor, I want to be able to make sure that if I ever need to get that, I can just remove the first 2 rows of boards or so in the garage area and still access that wire. Let's do it. Let's just get started, friends. I'm not gonna lie, this was the turning point of this van build for me because once you see what this cargo van looks like with an actual floor down, you're gonna kind of be like, this doesn't really look like a cargo van anymore, and family, that is the goal. Now, hear me out. I went to Home Depot and the flooring options were honestly overwhelming. I remember when I used to start working with my dad when I was 15 and like there was only one option of Pergo flooring, and now there are like thousands, but ultimately I went with a vinyl plank flooring because it's mostly made of plastic, which means that it won't expand and contract as much as some of the other options on the market. And this is super important because this van is not going to be climate controlled 100% of the time. There are times it's going to be sitting in the cold or the hot when we're not using it, and I just want to like limit any potential future problems. See, I told you this is the part of the project that's making me the happiest because your girl knows something about floating floors. And honestly, unlike anything else in this van build, this process went very quickly and I was able to get it done in a few hours. End of day check-in. Hair is just as wild as it was when we started, maybe a little bit more. How good does this floor look? I'm so excited about it. It's really starting to not feel like a cargo van in here anymore, and I'm very much enjoying that. Now that the floor is down, we can figure out the layout. So I'm gonna grab some painter's tape and then I'm gonna give you a little van tour and show you a 3D model of what my plans are so we can start framing things out in our next video. Bedroom and garage. It takes up so much more space than I thought it would. That is a problem. Okay, let's do this side because this is just going to be cabinet space. So I know that we've been focusing on kind of the boring stuff right now in this van build, but what is not boring is the fact that I was finally able to tape out a layout for this van, which is so exciting because I really have been so nervous that things are just not going to fit in here the way that we need them to. But I think that I officially figured it out and I made a tentative floor plan for it. And I can't wait to show you what this is gonna look like. Okay, friends, welcome to my tiny home. Let's take a tour. Here's my front door. Beautiful window. Lets in lots of natural light, which is actually a problem because I'd like some privacy in here. So we're gonna be tinting this. But anyway, we're gonna walk in. Welcome to my crib. Here is our living room / dining space right here. Right next to the bathroom. Hopefully have a toilet here that hides inside this bench when you're not using it. Fingers crossed. Over here is our kitchen, so that'll be a cooktop, a fridge, and like a prep space. This is our little sink here with what's gonna be our water heater and like a pump underneath, so that's great. And then this is our giant primary bedroom area and our garage. In theory, everything is gonna work right now because it's just tape, but I think once the walls are framed out, things are gonna be very different. So it's gonna be interesting. I hope that you'll all join me next time so we can frame this thing out and get electric in here and hopefully some plumbing in here. I know it's gonna take a while, so it's also gonna be a huge learning experience, but I hope that you'll all join me for that because I think it's gonna be fun. That being said, I actually have another project I have to work on that isn't this, that needs to go in my house. That's unrelated. So I'm gonna go work on that this week, and then next weekend Dad will be here to start electrical with me. So I'll get framing up at some point before then. But friends, we have a tiny home. See you next episode. Bye.